There's a big difference between I've got an idea and making it happen.
I've been in crypto for, I don't know, 12, 13.
The internet's changing like the weather every day. So we started to develop methods of how can we run tests from devices in people's homes or apps.
What's an ISP?
Internet service provider,
Okay.
you know.
Yeah, like
For those your provider could give you the best internet in the world, but if you mess up your Wi-Fi, in your mind, you've got the worst internet in the world.
Yeah, I was actually thinking about that like the other day, because before we planned about to just grab some beers. I'm getting tipsy already, maybe, because I haven't been drinking that much compared to you guys. We made it, boys. Hello, everyone. We're here today in Koh Sumai, like my friend is saying, actually from Thailand, where today is the which day of the
LP Roundtable.
LP Roundtable, DePIN Hub, IoTeX Qualoo. It's gonna be an epic episode where we get one of the greatest minds in DePIN and LP, which stands for a lot of liquidity provider,
Launchpad, yes.
anything that you want to do, right? And we are here in beautiful south of Thailand in an island. As you can see, this is not a green screen. Actually, we are really getting a tan here. I'm probably very sweaty already, but it's just having a lot of fun.
Looking good.
Right, it's good. And there's gonna be, we're very close from something called Island. It's an event by Solana. They're organizing full month events, hackathons, a lot of cool things. And we decided to just, tag along and bring all the great people in DePIN. Let's have a cool time together, right?
And a shout out to Keith, who flew all the way from Bangkok to Koh Samui today.
Didn't want to miss this, yeah. One day only, unfortunately, but we made it.
And why one day only?
Because we got work to do. We can't always party in crypto.
Yeah, that's true. we had some good parties in Singapore before this as well, which was...
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I feel that here is actually a pretty cool place to actually work. It has very good internet. I mean, the view is amazing. Just focus on, and then at night get together with other people in the event and just brainstorm.
Yeah.
I think there's from DePIN Hub side and IoTeX and Qualoo, actually a lot of people already know about DePIN. But I think on your side, maybe getting more and more people into this ecosystem that we've been basically breeding for the past many, many years. How would you talk about DePIN to your audience?
I've always seen the value in DePIN since the beginning, or actually since I noticed Helium. That was also my first thing that I noticed when I joined crypto, and I got excited about that, like turning something real life into crypto and not the other way around, trying to do crypto first and then turning it into real life. And I've seen it growing and growing. I've never been super involved with it, but every time I spoke to a DePIN project, I'm like, yeah, this clicks, this works, this is something. While 100 other projects I talk to, it's like just an idea or copy paste, something online that's just there, that doesn't bring real value. And that's what I like about DePIN. Like, you see real world use case and crypto combined, and it's explainable to your grandma. Yeah. Like if I explain my mom, this project does this and this, she will understand. Well, if I explain to my mom DeFi or something, it's like, why do I need this? Right? So I think that's the thing what I'm most excited about DePIN, to be honest, that it's explainable.
Yeah,
and it opens up use cases that it's not just targeted to crypto degens, right? Like there's other revenue streams possible. There's other ways that people can get involved and actually earn something. So yeah.
You're also bringing money from outside of crypto into crypto on the demand side of projects, right? Like for example, GeoNet, they install these devices in your house that help other GPS get centimeter accuracy. And companies paying dollars to actually use this service. And you're already bringing dollars into crypto. That's not just people on-ramping to buy, Mother coin or something like that. So I think it's something that crypto has been urging for a long time, to find this kind of use case that people can use in the government to lobby for crypto. Because if you talk about DePIN to politicians, I know for a fact that's something they're already using on the European Union. Comparing that, if you're talking about Mother or any other like meme coins, it's never gonna pass. It's not gonna fly in the government, right?
I love that point that you get some capital from outside into the crypto ecosystem, while a lot of other projects is more value extraction. Like they create a project, they raise money, or they do a public sale or private sale, and they actually take the money from investors, and only the rare ones make it go back. Usually it's like money out of the system and it's gone. And here you actually take capital from outside, like you say, from companies B2B, but also B2C, and can come in, and it's actually an ecosystem forming, so that's super cool.
No, I 100% agree. And just to take it a step further, you mentioned you can tell your grandma, but literally you can go around the Consumer Electronics Show, which we usually try to do every year out in Vegas, and you can go around to these Web2 companies and explain some of the things that we're working on. It's like, oh, they get it like this. Because it's unlocking use cases that never existed before and bring in real revenue. It's like clicks in like 2 seconds. So yeah, super excited about some of those use cases. We can hopefully get into some of them here today.
Yeah, and on our side, I mean, having a name for it helps, right? Because before, I mean, we were a DePIN project before we even knew we were DePIN, you know, and I've been kind of doing this DePIN stuff for 15 years, but we didn't have a name. And one of the big challenges before was you ask a consumer, can I put this box in your house? It's going to measure your internet and we're going to use that data to help fix the country or whatever. And they're like, is it spying on me? Is it secure? And that made it really difficult to find somebody to, you know, the supply side as we kind of know it now. But with DePIN and everyone getting behind it, people want to run nodes. They want to see the benefit. You know, you don't need to explain that because they all understand what it's doing. It's for a purpose. And a lot of the time, that purpose is, you know, the trusted establishments like your telco or your government aren't doing what they're supposed to be doing. So people are looking for a way around it, you know, and that's why we're seeing so much excitement because, you know, it's making stuff real and making stuff happen without asking for permission or waiting for somebody to come and help.
Yeah, I think like the sharing economy. When Airbnb started, I remember like I had a spare bedroom in my house and then sometimes I started renting. It was a very weird concept. Or the idea of like you jump in someone else's car for them to drive you somewhere. Like nowadays you don't even think, right? Sometimes you order a taxi, you just leave out of the taxi and forget to pay because we're so used to these things. But it takes time, but now everybody's used to it. And I like to think that DePIN is kind of sharing economy 2.0. It's the next, you know, advance of these technologies. Now we're having blockchain, things are much more streamlined, more transparent. And people who are actually deploying this can have access to more, like better earnings. Like Uber, for example, takes a massive cut, but then there are projects like Teleport that is doing Uber on blockchain. They can give better costs for the users, better rewards for the drivers.
Cutting out the middleman.
Exactly, cutting out the middleman, I think.
A lot of these companies, you know, they're locked in. The shareholders come first, right? You know, and these for-profit entities, and before that end user experience or anything, it's like you got to pay the masters, right? You know, and that's before reinvesting in your networks and things like that. And that's why the internet sucks in a lot of places, because if they're spending so much to repair it and they've got so many shareholders wanting for profit, why are they going to pay to expand the network when, you know, there's not that many customers there, you know? So it's a mess. And that's another thing that crypto is forcing with DePIN, you know, these shared revenue models, shared economies and things. You can crowdfund things that would be impossible otherwise. I mean, like in our case, we're building a global network that's almost like a second layer to the internet. How would we fund that alone? You know, how would you get everyone to collaborate and things? It'd be impossible. But through DePIN and building things out, you can do things that just aren't possible in any other traditional financial way.
Yeah, 100%. And yeah, we were talking earlier about how the internet here has actually been pretty good.
Yeah.
You know, Singapore wasn't so good. So it's been really good to be able to work out here. But I really want to get into a little bit more about Qualoo. Keith, if you want to just dive in and tell us a little bit more about the project. I'd love to.
Yeah.
And maybe before diving deep into Qualoo, you said you've been building DePIN for 15 years, actually.
So I mean,
explain us that whole process.
So the methodology behind this was, I mean, I've worked as an engineer for 25 years, trying to fix people's internet and telecoms networks, and I've been a consultant for the last kind of 15 plus years. And like when you do these consultancy jobs, you're going into a country or into a service provider and they're an absolute mess, right? You know, they've got tens of millions of dollars wastage in operational costs. Customers are screaming, they're leaving, like, you know, it's not a good situation. And our job was to find out what's going on, and it was impossible using the traditional monitoring systems, the additional, you know, you kind of give me your fault data, let me analyze that. You know, that's 6 months out of date. The internet's changing like the weather every day. So we started to develop methods of how can we run tests from devices in people's homes or apps that actually test through the internet. And we can map like a whole country, a whole provider with a handful of boxes, for example. So in some cases, we've improved like entire countries' internet, finding issues that they've been trying to solve for years, and we've solved it in an hour. You know, that's the kind of power of it. So the big idea was, you know, we go and audit here, telecom project there, they're all making the same stupid mistakes. Nobody's communicating with each other. we really need to have these boxes out all of the time, all over the world, really just keeping an eye on everything, being almost like protecting the internet, you know. And I kind of wrote the white paper for this in 2017 when it was, you know, the ICO days, everyone, and I was like, had this idea, so I really want these boxes out, I want to pay them in crypto, but the tech wasn't there, you know. So what really kind of spurred us on to do this now was during COVID lockdowns, everyone's suddenly talking about how bad the internet is, you know, and digital divide, all these new words, government spending billions. So we kind of had the blueprint and the message was there and the narrative. And then you have all these advances with Web3, AI coming on and DePIN now, but you look at the network side of that, you know, the network effect of the marketing side, you can tap into people who run devices and things like that. So that really solved a big problem for us because we had the value that we could get from the demand side, but we had no way to get the supply side. Now DePIN unlocks that. So we're really just taking that solution and making it scalable. And the DePIN network's kind of just one layer of the system because we don't just take raw data because nobody knows what to do with it. You've got to analyze that data. So everything we've learned over the last 15 years, what kind of active tests to do, how we send the data over the internet, how we correlate those, and how we compare the data feeds from different nodes to pinpoint issues and who's holding it. And that might be whether you in your house, we detect a problem, we let you know. Is it in your service provider or is it in another service provider? But we're talking about the entire internet, right? So 10,000 providers, and the Qualoo network's going to be mapping this in real time, making sure everyone's kind of held to the same standard. And make sure everyone gets good internet everywhere. And you know, there's so many stakeholders that have got to work together to make that happen. You know, so it's just trying to create attention for the different stakeholders and creating this shared economy where every stakeholder can both contribute by running a node, providing data and things like that, or they can actually take from that. So they actually get the insights from the platform, and you can factor that into with the token, with the QXT token. So it's, you know, it's a big vision, and you know, it's going to be very disruptive because in the whole industry now there's no transparency. You know, like I can't find out any information about how good your ISP is or faults or anything, and you can complain and they'll say, well, it looks okay to me, right? And that's, you know, unfortunately still billions of people around the world still unconnected. There's billions of people more that have really poor service, you know, and you know, there's billions that have good service, and it's also important to map where they are, because when you're actually investing in the global internet, you need to know where's good, because okay, great, you're good, we don't need to invest it, but where's bad? That's where the global money's got to funnel into. So it's really trying to just build this monster ecosystem that sits over the internet and make sure it works well for everyone.
So you have so many questions. So basically, you're trying to solve internet quality around the world, right? Like in a very, very broad.
Yeah.
And to do that, you need to measure the quality of the ISPs.
Yeah, so we're basically building essentially an edge network. You know, so nodes will be in people's homes or on a mobile app. You know, they map that around, and we test through the internet end to end. So it's basically looking at the homes, the ISPs, and holding everyone accountable. And we don't need anywhere near as many devices as you would think, right? We don't need a box in every home because the internet networks are so aggregated, you know. Yeah. So like if you have a problem at home, if it's not in your house, it's probably affecting half of your ISP, you know, and it's coming in and out. So we kind of calculate like 200,000 nodes around the world will let us block all of that down, you know.
And then what does this node do? It keeps pinging some servers, trace routes.
Yeah, there's probably about 50 different tests it's doing. So we kind of stack the tests in different ways. We have reference points all over the internet. And so the first thing it does is whenever you do a test, you want to know, where am I, right? So the nodes are kind of registered with a location, tagged to a provider, because that's our base point, right? You know, we're mapping that. And the hyperlocational kind of information. And then at the time you're running that task on the test, you want to know what's the connectivity environment. Are you on a mobile? Are you on Wi-Fi? What's all of the technical parameters around that? And then we start sending out around the world, and we're looking at things like how is your internet provider routing the traffic? How is it sending this around? And when you kind of think of an ISP's job, it's pretty simple. They're just like a mailman, right? They've got to take data packets from you or your devices, send them to wherever you're going, and then back again. That's it.
What's an ISP?
internet service provider,
Okay.
you know.
Yeah, like
For those that
Vodafone,
want. But like simply that's what that's all they do, and if they can't do that right, then everything breaks down. And especially when you talk about DePIN, the innovation, it's all happening at the edge. You're plugging it into the internet. We're talking about residential home internet lines, and those residential internet lines are not profiled for enterprise grade service, right? They have different upload, download speeds. They have different prioritization in the network. And when you look at these DePINs doing like storage and VPNs and rerouting things, you're bringing traffic that is kind of should never go down to the access network, and you're pulling it down from the big pipes that go into data centers, and you bring it down to the access layer. And that's kind of disrupting all of how the networks perform. So that's one thing that we're really going to keep a close eye with as well. And when we say, like, you know, let's make the internet better together, and that's one of our taglines, it takes everyone from providers who are plugging in, that might be, you know, DePIN providers, service providers, app providers, and traditional telcos and governments. It's a joint effort. And even the people in the house, you're responsible for your own home network. If your provider could give you the best internet in the world, but if you mess up your Wi-Fi, in your mind, you've got the worst internet in the world.
Yeah, I mean, that's the second question I was going to ask. Like, if you're measuring, first thing you need to measure to the point of like the internet comes to your router, and then you need to connect through the cable. So that's the best way for you to connect actually the quality of the service that's coming from the ISP to you. Because then if you're measuring your Wi-Fi, maybe your router is in the living room, but you're like in the basement.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, my ISP sucks, but actually.
Yeah, I mean, that's what we map as well in the app. So some of the things like if you're spending too much time in the weak Wi-Fi area, get a mesh router. But there's a huge technical skill gap for the average internet user. They don't know what a mesh router is, how to set it up, how to provide it. The telcos don't know when you need a mesh, you know, and it's just in this state of a standoff, you know. So like we really want to take we've got case studies of thousands of issues where we've solved these issues over these years, and we want to say, okay, how do we solve the big thing? Right? How can we really make a difference here? And that's addressed, like, so an app in your pocket, it'll basically be like your connectivity assistant, right? If you're looking for a hotel, which hotel's got the best Wi-Fi? If you want to book a Calendly call, you know, can Qualoo plug into that and predict when the internet's going to be good? You know, things like that, right? If you're a gamer, you might be interested in things like that. You know, you're a digital nomad, you're traveling to Thailand, which SIM card to get in Samui? Yeah. Now that might be different to the best SIM card in Bangkok. So
I had this conversation with ChatGPT before buying.
So this is where the hyper localized things come in really important. And when you look at the kind of the benchmarks that we use today, it's heavily based on speed test, which is just weighted to bandwidth, and it's aggregated across a country. You know, like what good is it if, you know, and if you could be in a little village somewhere, you don't get the same as what's in London, for example. And
probably better, to be honest, if you're in Thailand.
You know. It is, yeah. And the other thing is there's a lot of misconceptions out there because people think first world countries have really good internet and developing countries have really bad, you know. But I mean, the worst experience I've had in the last 2 years was going back to the UK and London, right? You know, I couldn't, you know, we were having a call with IoTeX, with the marketing guys, and it was like 7-second delay. We turned all of our cameras off and we were in an Airbnb in London. Like, that sucked. But when you book that Airbnb, it says high-speed internet. So you're like, great. But it's never the case. And, you know, so that we're just trying, if we can make everyone's life easier around getting connected and staying connected, that's what we want to do. And the other side of that is like the world we are building is completely reliant on the internet, right? Everything, you know, like whether you're making payments, whether you're getting connected, and people don't realize how fragile it is, right? I know because I've worked in it for 25 years, and I know the telco industry cannot do what we're asking them to do. There needs to be other way, but you know, we're going to a place where there's going to be no alternative. There's going to be no cash. You know, even in Singapore, I went to buy a coffee in the mall. Give me a coffee. You can't order. What do you mean I can't order? You need to download the app. Well, my phone's flat. Well, you can't order. You know, just, you know, how's that going to work if there's like a disaster, the internet's down or the power's down? And, you know, there needs to be a conversation about, you know, it is pretty fragile, it needs protecting, and it needs some people connecting it. And, you know, our kind of view is we want to be the guardians of the internet. You can be a guardian of the internet too by running a Qualoo node. and we'll hold everyone to a higher standard, and we'll be working for the people rather than just inside telcos. And that's the real importance of the DePIN aspect, is because you run a node, the real value is you give us access to your provider. We don't need any permission, we don't need to install any equipment in your provider, so that's really important. And it needs to be censorship resistant, because countries suddenly exposed for having terrible internet, that drives GDP, it drives investment, it drives, global competitiveness and all that kind of stuff. Yeah. So they're not going to want to see it. But on the other side, it's like we're almost like leaving a review for you, but telling you exactly what to do, it's like, and how to fix it. I'm
sold. When can I get a device? What is the next steps? How is the progress going? What do you guys need?
So, our progress, we had a big boost a few months ago when we started working with IoTeX. One of the projects on the DePIN Surf, Cohort 2, got a bit of investment, got our mobile app built, ready to go, maybe a couple of weeks away. The nodes, we want to do a bring your own device kind of aspect as well, turn your TV or IoT box or Raspberry Pi into a Qualoo node, or also piggybacking on other DePIN devices, so we can get that global coverage. So we're still in our seed round. We got about 500k left to close down with that, so get your monies in. And we want to get the app on iPhone and Android in the next kind of 2 or 3 weeks. We've been working hard on that first. And
you said that you wrote a white paper in 2017, but the technology wasn't there yet. What changed that it's possible now?
One was, everyone has a good idea, right? But there's a big difference between I've got an idea and making it happen. And that's, probably a good podcast on its own, how you actually go from a piece of paper. You didn't know anyone in the industry, even though I was into crypto and all that kind of stuff. And it's a bit of a journey, right? The big thing that changed was, like I said, everyone's suddenly talking about the bad internet. And we went through a couple of accelerator programs. We did one with InMind, which is where we met Shasha and Camelo, Arcanum, who became our first backers. They helped us with our tokenomics, started getting real guidance and support. And then you move forward to the next step. And then we really wanted to decide on who we're going to build on. And that was the next big challenge. Like, do we go with Peak? Do we go with IoTeX? Do we build our own? So we looked at all of those. We spent about 3 months back and forth with Peak and IoTeX, and IoTeX were just an awesome vibe. Every meeting, you could feel the energy. They were excited about what we were building. We were excited about what you guys were building. That was before the IoTeX 2.0 come out as well. And then the other thing is the support you get. You've seen in Singapore, we got a booth there. I was invited to do the panel and presentation, things like that. So for project kind of exposure, to be able to be elevated up like that, and then we meet all these other guys, and we were all together in Samui, and it's starting to snowball. And so now people are getting excited about what we're building. We got investors we met in there, so we're really close to bringing on serious funding. And then the team's growing. We're just going at it, really, and just
I'll just say from our side, we're super happy to have you. Like, you're solving a problem that is a very, very, very important one. And there's legitimately billion-dollar potential here, whereas a lot of projects that we can kind of talk to don't have that same kind of upside where it's trying to solve such a big problem. But it is such a big problem. So how do you bring in and focus on maybe some of the key things that, okay, I want to solve this, instead of just trying to, getting distracted by some certain things?
Yeah.
Stay focused.
A lot of projects are kind of a deep in looking for a problem to solve, but we were solving a problem, and then we landed on DePIN as a solution, and we went all around back and forth for years. Do we do it as a telco project? It's impossible, at the scale. And we tried thinking of can we do like an app, and really it always come back to the DePIN crypto payment module. And it's, you got to just think of it in kind of first principles. On the face of it, it seems massive, but it's not really when you break it down, right? If these nodes all around the world are doing the same thing, testing the same way, and bring the insights in the same way, and we've got all of this 15 years of actually solving the problems, mapping these insights to projects, that's been our case study, that's been our proof of concept, and that's feeding into our development. So we're kind of not trying to, we've already developed it, now we're just optimizing it for this use case. And and the other thing is we're building a network past all service providers. So it's different to before, where you go knock on the door and say, hey, can I install this in your network and give you this? And then from that, it's then becomes an adoption curve. How many people are going to start using you first? So we've already tapping up like big multinational organizations, friends of us and the advisory team that we worked with, who are going to be our first clients, and that'll be enough case study to get it in. But the other side of that is the education side, right? Is we're doing this because it's impossible for telco to do it themselves, right? They've boxed themselves in a hole. You know, they can't move. I mean, when you think of all of their KPIs and SLAs tied to their senior executive bonuses, you can't go to them and tell the truth internally, right? They're locked. But you can go outside and lift them all up. And we really want to go around the world educating all these governments that we built this network. It's for public good, public benefit, and they're earning tokens by running nodes. And this is how we'll work together to improve it and then bring all of the stakeholders in.
Yeah. You know what I really love is some of the case studies that you guys already have in place.
Yeah.
Like a lot of projects can like talk a lot of fluff, but you guys have actually done it in a couple of countries.
Yeah.
So if you don't mind talking about that, and also the 200,000 devices, that's actually mind blowing to me that you only need that many in order to improve the internet to that degree.
Yeah. So I mean, if you think of the internet as roads and highways and roundabouts, you know, and the major internet exchange points are like big roundabouts, and you have highways connecting countries and things. And just look at your Google Maps. When you open it, you see where the traffic jams are and things like that. And you know, people use that to change how they set off on their journey and things. And that's what our data does. And you don't need to send huge amounts of data to find these traffic jams. Like, how many cars do you need to send to find a traffic jam? One, right? You don't need to send 1 million cars to find a traffic jam. Just one can say, oh, I found a jam, right? And that's why we can do what we do with very low bandwidth. We're not hammering people's lines doing speed tests using gigabits. It's useless. Speed test is the most useless measurement for testing internet.
Data every day to test.
Yeah, exactly. And it tells you nothing because it's only, that's the on-ramp. That's like saying how big's your drive, right? But not what's the city like.
That is a question that I get from a lot of people when I discuss Qualoo. Is like, okay, there's this internet speed test. Isn't that what they're just doing? But it's a lot deeper.
Yeah, exactly. It's really exactly. Because the other thing is, like, when you do a speed test, is your ISP, like, that's how they measure it, right? So it's in their interest to game the system, right? So those speed test servers are like not even halfway across your provider's network. And like most times when the internet's bad, you'll see you're getting perfect speeds on speed tests, right? But everything else is a mess. When you say, so like a technician comes to your house and does a speed test and say, speed test, or if it's not working on a night and your technician comes 9 o'clock the next morning when there's no traffic on the network, so everything's great. It's you know, so that's the thing. And the other thing is that that speed test just tells you the last mile setup, right? So you can do it once to say, okay, this is the kind of the system, but it's really about how all of the providers interconnect, how your traffic's shared. And that speed test thing is one of the reasons why the system's so messed up, because there was 2 things that happened in kind of telcos. Is the vendors run the show, and they were bringing out all these new technologies, fiber to the home, gigabit. So everyone's just racing. I'm getting 100 meg, now I'm getting 200, and the competitors say, no, I'm going to sell you 500 meg. But like, nobody uses that. The average customer is only going to, you think you're watching Netflix stream, it's 10 meg. What do you need a gig for, right? You know, it's stupid. But now that's the other problem with DePIN, is you're putting devices on the end that can really ramp up and use your network. So the actual telcos only provision about 256 kilobits per second per user, right? Not a gigabit. So if everyone starts using that, everyone's going to crash to 200 kilobit, right? You know, it's wild. And I mean, we see a lot of crypto projects as well trying to tap into that, and they say, well, you've got a gig, share your unused bandwidth, right? You know, and there's too many DePIN projects as well just trying to put payment gateways on things that already exist, you know, and you know, we want to try and add real value and actually expand the networks. That's what you need to do to remove the digital divide, right? You need to change it from just these centralized for-profit entities, bring it back into more public, hold them accountable, and reinvest it. And so, I mean, Qualoo Network's going to save hundreds of billions a year for these telcos. Now they can reinvest that in expanding the network, right? So that's the kind of goal.
Or invest in their CEOs.
Yeah, and hopefully they won't just send it back to the shareholders,
exactly.
Right? Yeah, we used Qualoo and now we saved 100 billion, so big bonuses. Yeah, exactly. I mean, this is why we need to bring everyone in. Governments, you know, private sector, public sector. We all got to, you know, have a conversation, and we really see like the Qualoo network as being able to guide everything, like one source of truth for every country, every provider, every technology, just keeping everything in line. You know.
Now, question. Let's talk about the hardware.
Mm-hmm.
Are you the right person to talk about the hardware?
Yeah.
What kind of hardware do you need? Like, can I have ESP32s, Raspberry Pis, like a bunch of like small computers at home? Can I build my own, install like a Docker image, start running?
Yeah.
Does it need like gigabit
No.
internet port, 10 gigabit internet port?
No. We're trying, so we want to sell the nodes and we're aiming to get about $50 as close as possible. So we're trying to use like old Raspberry Pi, Orange Pi tech, something like that. We don't need huge CPU usage, you know, and the cheaper you get, the better, because we want to get them out. But like what you said, we really want to bring your own device. It's quite hard to logistically get it out, especially with the target markets we're going after, Africa and Latin America and things. And we have a plan to subsidize the network rollout as well. So we're going to give nodes away, and we want to use the insights from our app to help with distribution. You know, so if you're using our app in a certain area and you're in a sweet spot, to help us get better distribution, we'll give you a free node in that, just to try and help balance out, because you know that's another kind of challenge that DePINs have with the distribution. You don't, you know, you see 20 Helium nodes in a block of flats or something, right? You know, you want distribution within reason.
Just kidding.
Yeah.
So, because I haven't been drinking that much, compared to you guys. But what happens is, I was thinking about, there's like ESP32. It's like a small microcontroller that's super cheap. I think like you can buy for like $3-4, and then you can attach like some sort of Ethernet connection on top of it.
Yeah.
And that becomes super straightforward. Just like a quick thing for the listeners out there, I'm planning to, as soon as I'm back to Portugal, to do like a tutorial on how to run a Entropy node on ESP32. Entropy is the DePIN meme coin, and it's super interesting, so make sure to follow anywhere doing this, because I got a lot of cool swag that I'm gonna be wearing during this, because I want to be like, you know, DJing and building DePIN meme coins. Entropy is very nerdy, but perfect for DePIN projects.
Awesome.
But yeah, anyway, like going back to the ESP32, is like super cheap, has Wi-Fi, you can put Ethernet, $3-4 to have one. So that could be a pretty good starting point. But I don't know what's the requirements.
I mean, if you're getting into like the higher bandwidth testing and things like that, which we don't see there's much value, you need higher CPU process and stuff like that to really.
Yeah, you need a Pi
but just for the kind of mapping of the data, the routing and all of the other stuff, the QoS stuff and the route analysis and all that, you don't need that much CPU.
Because you could have different devices, right?
Yeah,
like
yeah.
Qualoo Lite, Qualoo Pro.
I mean, and also like really old mobile technology and stuff like that in some of these countries and things. And you know, we're trying to cover the world, make it as inclusive as possible, and remove those barriers to entry. And yeah, I mean that's why we don't want to sell nodes for a premium. You know, a lot of these projects like, okay, it's 2K for Wi-Fi, and you know that's kind of funding their operations. But the real value for us is, okay, we've got potentially $1 billion revenues annual here. Let's get the network built, right? we'll give you a $50 node.
Yeah, to a degree, that's putting your money where your mouth is, because a lot of these, like you said, they kind of front run kind of the process by saying, I want to bring in the revenue first, because they probably don't trust in their demand side, whereas you trust in your demand side for your data, so that's why you're willing to do things for much, maybe even no profit on the front end.
Check the rep. Finish it. You're not driving, right? I 100% agree with what you're saying there.
Too warm. This is cold.
I think like DePIN projects, they shouldn't be. I mean, that's one reason why they fundraise, right? They shouldn't be trying to profit on the nodes, because you want to have as many nodes as possible online, because that information is actually going to bring value to your project. It's going to, start the DePIN flywheel that we talk so much, and that's going to start making your project like valuable and actually work throughout the times. Because I think a lot of projects that try to do, sell a shit ton of nodes for a very premium.
That's their project. I mean, when you look at it, they on the surface they say they're doing one thing, but really they're just adding like validators and payment nodes and stuff like that. So that's the project. That's what investors come in and invest in. And yeah, I mean we don't want to bash projects too much, but I mean, like, yeah, no, it's no specifics, but I mean, like, yeah, I mean, we're just trying to build the value on what we're doing, and we need DePIN to do the supply side at the scale. And
that's a good point, actually. Like where these DePIN projects that are selling hardware are selling something that already exists with a premium to then fund their operations, fund whatever Web3 narrative there is around, but it doesn't really bring much value. Like, I saw a charger which mines crypto for you. I think at the same time you guys were. And I'm like, what's the price of this charger? Like, one sol. I buy this charger for $10 if I want to.
Yeah.
Am I even gonna earn back this charger? And I don't want to bash on
proper
the charger.
DGen.
Like, no bashing on this, but like, also we're talking about hardware, right? There's so much hardware, and DePIN projects bringing out hardware. There's also an opportunity coming up for like overlapping DePIN alliance or like a DePIN rollup that includes all of these devices into one. Or am I not correct?
Yeah. There is projects doing that, but that's the thing. No one wants 50 boxes plugged in at home.
Yeah, exactly.
And
me.
Yeah, but we're early to the game, right? Yeah, early. But I mean, when you look at it, and I mean, there's so many projects now in DePIN just doing the same stuff, like GPU storage. You know, it's just getting boring.
That is true. Like I think it probably get approached once a day almost, or once every few days with a new AGI, a new AI DePIN project, because it's a lot of people, and some are really doing the right thing and trying to build something different, but a lot of people are trying to just build like kind of like piggyback on the narrative and try to fundraise on that. And for that case, getting a little bit saturated, I try to get into the project, understand the team, talk to the founders before I actually like back the project. Even on DePIN Hub, like we have this website called DePINHub.io that we list a lot of projects, and I jump on a call with every single project we list. I do like a premium, like a small DD on each project, and I try to understand, okay, are they serious? Are they just trying to like leverage narrative? Because like 4 years ago, DePIN didn't exist. Last year, on all the crypto conferences that we went, the first, 30% of each, event was like, what is DePIN to you? What is this and that? Now, nobody really talk about what's DePIN. Everybody in a little closed bubble, but we just go, okay, what is the demand problem? What are you trying to solve? Where's the money going to come from? There's a lot of more harder questions that projects that are trying to get into space needs to answer before they get investments or you name it.
There's a lot of big money in DePIN already, right? I mean, walking around talking 2049, the booths, like some of them are huge. You think a few $100,000 for a booth, and DePIN, cloud storage, there was about 50 of them, right? And
Wagme, we made it, boys. It's cool because like I've been in crypto for 12, 13, 14, 15 years.
Wow.
No. 15, no, that's too much. Like, I think it was 13.
You're Satoshi.
Yeah, it was like 2011. It's a very blurry memory that I have. But I've been on the sidelines of crypto 2017, the ICO craze. I remember that as well. Getting Ethereum when it was very cheap. My friend invited me to the ICO of Ethereum. Like, okay, this is BS, and just another ICO scam. Don't remind me again.
But the reason that people see it as BS is because they don't see anything. They don't see what's a blockchain. They don't see what's a node. They don't see how it's running. And I think DePIN can show what is a node actually, and that's making people understand. Like, make my grandma understand, make my mom understand. Everybody has a node. It's connected with each other. That's can run a blockchain.
It's going to bring on board so many people into crypto. Like, we started in, like, I only went really full-time into crypto after 2020. Like, when Helium started, I started building Helium network in Lisbon. We onboarded, just alone, me and my co-founder, more than 150 people, because what we did at the time is, like, you're a teacher in Lisbon, for example, you're my friend, I have a really opportunity to you. I'm coming to your home. I'm installing a little box. All I need to do is keep this box online and plug in electricity, and I'm gonna give you some money at the end of the month. A lot of friends say yes, right? Mm-hmm. And then, okay, now at the end of the month I need to pay you. How do I pay you? Actually, you need to create this thing called crypto wallet. And at the time, I used to teach people to use Binance because it's the easiest way to do it. So all these people like creating a Binance account, gave me their Helium wallet at the time, now Solana wallet. I would say that like 25% of all those people that we taught them how to create a Binance wallet started getting into crypto after that, because they were making money. especially because Helium went crazy.
Oh, that was crazy.
I remember like I had a friend that she's like a Turkish teacher, and then she told me like, I just opened my account and I have $5,000, and she was making like $2,000, 2,000 euros a month out of thin air, basically, literally, right? So, what is this crypto thing? Actually, I'm gonna, start paying attention.
How do you think about this onboarding? Because like the seamless onboarding that you're providing to people, and then like suddenly they're surprised that there's value behind that. Like, how do you see the onboarding onto Qualoo for users?
we want to see that app as a kind of that connectivity assistant. Everybody wants to get the internet connected, and that's a good gateway. I mean, when you look at how many people have downloaded like speed test apps, like 150 million downloads, doesn't tell you anything, right? So if we can get anywhere near that, and then you're also bringing them into learning about crypto, Web3, other partnership projects, you can convert those points for different nodes on different DePINs or different, like that whole ecosystem, and making it like gamified, make it interesting. You bring them in, and they'll see value because for them, we help them get their better internet while they're also helping everyone else get better internet. It's an economy, right? A team effort.
One problem that I see a lot of DePIN projects facing, comparing to all the rest of the crypto ecosystem, is they need to onboard your mom to crypto, right? So a lot of times they don't open an app and it's like, okay, take your seed phrase. What the fuck is a seed phrase? One problem that happened when Helium moved from their own layer 1 to Solana is that people didn't understand what the seed phrase was, and they start giving away to people and getting like, my money is gone, right? So there's some level of education that DePIN projects need to do, and also some level of abstraction.
Yeah.
You start, when you install the app, maybe you create the wallet, you log in with Google in the beginning, slowly educate the people to understand how does this, you don't really understand on the like deep level of how the wallet creates it from private key to public key, etc.
Yeah.
But it's a process that I think it's our duty as like DePIN ambassadors to teach.
Got to make it seamless as
stuff.
possible, right? And I'm sure we've all lost money making stupid mistakes over the years, and it's
that's an whole episode on itself as well.
Yeah, but it's still not that easy, right? But it's good that there is new wallet providers and integrations and stuff making that easier, with a bit more security and things.
Actually, that could be a good question for you.
Yeah. No, absolutely. We've discussed this a little bit about some of the user experience and some of the different integrations you can pull in. Like there's existing tools out there using an account abstraction and things like that that you can just plug and play basically for authentication, where you don't have to sign in using your seed phrase every time. You can sign in using Google, and that's pretty powerful. So taking a look from the product management perspective, it's like, let's take a look at end-to-end user experience from the hardware side to the app to how do you install this and how do you take out tokens and how do we make this optimized for the user. And it's going to be talking to the users. It's going to be talking to your grandmother and saying, can you test this for me and see what you think? Can you go end-to-end and figure this out? And when we get there, like for sure they understand it, but can they get there from end-to-end? Let's figure that out, and we need to make that happen. And that's project management 101.
That's good. Yeah. That's nice. If you could start a company today and it's not Qualoo, within the DePIN space, what would you choose? What you're most bullish about, where you think DePIN can revolutionize something apart from telecom?
That's a good question, right? My brain has been so brainwashed into thinking about only Qualoo for the last 3 years and make it hard. But I think I really like you have to move things away from too much centralized control, right? So I think projects that are trying to create accountability and things like that and empower the everyday person, I think that's important. So probably something around that.
Yeah, a couple that I love are just ones that are just transparent about what they're doing and transparent about the revenue, because a lot of this, like I think you're referring to, they're very centralized, like not honest about what they're doing. And if they're able to say, okay, we're making 1.5 million a year in revenue, like GeoNet is growing 20%, and they're showing these figures, I think that's super powerful. And I'm excited about projects that are doing that, because I think that's paving the way for
and buying the tokens out of the market as well.
Yeah. Keep the loop going instead of extracting again, right?
So Daniel's doing a great job with DePIN Hub in trying to bring more exposure to the sector. And we're doing a similar project too called DePINScan.io, where we're trying to bring more education to the sector, showing all the different projects that are there, what do they do, learn to earn campaigns, things like that, but also just bringing more verifiability to the sector. Like, we want to be able to know for a fact that these guys are earning this much revenue, and can we get that on chain, and we want to be able to know there's this many devices and this is how much it's growing. And I think that's the next stage, is trying to bring that level of transparency and verifiability to the sector.
Yeah, because I think the difference between DePIN, I mean, the thousands, right? DePIN and DeFi lives actually on crypto.
Mm-hmm.
DePIN, the crypto side is just a part of the whole project, right? Revenues usually don't come from the crypto side. You have on-chain revenue. Everything usually is like B2C in fiat, for example. You have Hive Mapper they're selling the data that they're collecting to other companies. They don't even tell the companies that they are selling to. So in this sense, they're way less transparent than Junet, for example. Maybe they're making a lot of money. They're not really distributing that reward with the people that they're actually building the network. Or they are not making any money, and then they're trying to I'm going to the moon, right? So I think I like it that more and more projects being transparent and trying to do as much as on-chain revenue, transparency, etc., the better. But
that's why personally I'll just shout those guys out constantly, because they're kind of leading the way in that way. Because how can you even trust some of these other projects that aren't doing that? It's really difficult. So even though it's some of this data you can't get on-chain now, there is potential to do that with different kinds of decentralized identity and what have you. And I do think eventually we will trend that way.
Yeah, and in the end, like, the token is still a community tool, right? Like, the token is being used for having the network operating, but also for the community, binding your community to the project. There's still like this equity part and token part in the whole thing. And like you say, if they're only extracting value and not giving anything back to the token holders, they're just going to the equity holders, and you forget about the community. And that's something that we see a lot of projects do. Like, it's easy to just extract value and make yourself rich, but that's not going to grow the economy that you're actually building, or the community. And seeing ways that how the revenue then gets distributed to both equity side and token side is great. And if that's transparent, that's how it should be.
If your users find out or don't earn enough rewards and the competitor comes along, they just stop mining or providing, and then your supply side's gone, then you,
this is so important.
Then you're 100%. Screwed.
DePIN projects that don't realize the importance of their community are bound to die.
Yeah.
Not only DePIN projects.
Yeah.
Any project, but they're the heartbeat of the project.
Yeah.
You don't take them for granted. They're your OPEX. Basically, it's basically like if a telco company and the entire technicians quit.
Yeah, they're way more valuable than any kind of marketing campaign you 100%. Can spin up, right? They do your marketing for you, really. Yeah. They're out there championing you, shilling you, shilling the bags.
That's why you see these new shiny things outperform the old ones, because they still have treasury to spend on marketing and everything, right? While the other ones have to do it with their word of mouth type of situation, but the value cannot keep flowing in. And that's why you see the early ones outperform the established ones, because they can just drop money on marketing, but 3 years later they're in the same shoes as the older ones.
Yeah, exactly.
That's how...
The amount of work that I spent in the last years teaching people about Helium, way before the DePIN narrative existed, right? Like in 2022, I traveled around the world giving a talk. The IoT revolution is going to be decentralized. And I talk about Helium, I talk about Hotspotty, they were building like a fleet management for Helium. And and definitely Helium kind of forgot about the IoT network a lot. They were very focused on the mobile network. So there's not that much excitement, let's say, on people building the IoT network. Because they just, shiny thing that brings money is the Helium mobile. Mm-hmm. Let's focus on that. Even though they still say that they really care about the IoT network, it's not very...
Helium was excited when it came out, though. Like, I remember the whole influencers talking about it. I'm mining this much tokens, and it blew up so much that everybody got excited about it. Everybody understood it, and everybody in the whole world ordered the device. But then they got it only 6 months or even later after they ordered it. And there was also this halving event, right? They tokenomics and they halve I remember like I wanted to buy one actually, and the halving was in August, was 2 months away. I was like, it's not gonna come early enough. My friends did, I didn't, and yeah, of course, like they got such a backlog of devices. They got everyone excited, and if they could deliver on that promise, it would have been extremely nice. But now they couldn't because they got even too much hype. And
too much hype for their own good. For
exactly, because that damaged the reputation as well. Like after that, and after me hearing my friends not getting what they asked for or what they were promised, then like it's like reputation thing as well. Suddenly the bear market starts, device arrive in the bear market, suddenly the price is $2 instead of 40.
Like a paperweight.
You know, like right. So like I'm not even sure if they broke even on that investment. So it's also important to manage expectations of like, we have X amount of devices, let's only sell X amount of devices.
I'm trying to remember, we did an ROI calculation on Helium hotspots nowadays. It was like, I don't know, 20, 30 years.
Yeah, exactly. But back then they were printing 5K a month in the beginning, right?
I think we had a point that the ROI was like 4 or 5 days.
Yeah.
It's like, the thing is like, I'm very happy, like glad that we were there very early, but we didn't think about joining Helium because it's gonna make money. It was just because it's like a fucking amazing idea, right? Like when I was living in Berlin before moving to Lisbon, I was working for a project called the Things Network. Not working for, sorry. I built an IoT like a LoRa network for the Things Network, which is basically Helium without tokens, right? Yeah. And then what happened after it was, I built a device, I had a Raspberry Pi, I had like the LoRa concentrator, was just like in a box somewhere. And it comes to summer 2020, Max, my co-founder, is like, oh, there's this project, Helium. And I completely understood. I understood the tech already. And I understood like, okay, they're going to pay me in crypto for run this thing. I'm not just going to do it for kudos at the end of the month. Okay, the Things Network's done, right? Yeah. This thing's going to kick ass. And I basically spent all my time just like in the Discord learning. Discord was tiny. They were in Slack, and then they moved to Discord, and they had, I don't know, a few hundred people on Telegram. Like, wow. Super
really
cool.
Early.
Yeah, I was like, I understand this thing, right? Like, I remember even make a little video, like, how can you run your miner on the cloud, etc. I had, like, running a Raspberry Pi Zero, which is, like, the tiny, like, $5 one. And I was thinking, okay, maybe at the end of the month, we'll be able to make some beer money. It's pretty cool, right? Like, you know, build something really interesting, and then being I think it was the first one in Europe, or the first one at least in Spain, Portugal, like Germany, Italy, etc. It was in my kitchen, and I built a little device that you press a button and it sends a beacon, and then you can see on the Helium console if the device in my kitchen received. So it was like me, like a dumb nerd, walking around the neighborhood playing a button and seeing someone just like with like a bunch of cables, you know, like a breadboard.
What I was always wondering is like they say if an IoT device connects with it, you earn tokens, and then I was thinking, are there enough IoT devices in the world already operating actually to communicate with this? How is that? Like, are there actually, or is it just devices connecting with each other?
Yeah. So they had to solve the chicken and egg situation, right? Like, I'm not gonna build a Helium network if there is not enough devices around antennas. I'm not gonna deploy antenna if there's not one. So what they actually did is something called proof of coverage. It's like, I put an antenna here, you're gonna put an antenna, you know, like 1 kilometer away, and our devices, all the devices around the network is gonna be talking to each other, and then it's gonna verify that you say you are where you say you are, and by doing this verification, which is called proof of coverage, which is kind of like a proof of work, you're gonna receive rewards. And that was the way that they managed to kickstart the network. So the way it works, on a little bit more technical knowledge, they create like a key, like a private key, and they split in half. Half of that key they send through the internet, which you're gonna receive for sure, and the other key you're gonna receive through the air. If you receive both and you can decrypt that key, means you receive that information. So they start doing this, and basically could be 0 people using the internet, but we're still making money. And people are like, okay, this is like a brilliant idea. This network is gonna be huge. You know, IoT, there's gonna be trillions of devices. You're gonna grow by like exponentially, which it still haven't happened. The idea is that it's gonna keep on growing, but it still haven't happened the way they predicted. But the idea was genius, right? Like super cool.
Yeah.
We spent the whole 2020, end of 2020, 2021, like just climbing roofs, you know.
So soon you can start a new business, Qualoo Spotty.
Qualoo Spotty, yeah, exactly. I mean, we have already like a lot of friends in Lisbon. Might as well just give them each one a Qualoo.
Exactly.
That's a great point. So, what's the lesson there? Is it, how did you know to invest them? I guess it's just something you found that was cool. But for like the retail and DePIN enthusiasts out there, how do you know which one to pick? Like, how do you know that Qualoo is going to be the one to pick?
I think,
because you want to be early.
Yeah, from my experience, being early means opportunities.
Yes.
That's like Michael's saying.
Heard it here first.
Yeah, exactly. So we were lucky on Helium because we didn't think about the money, right? So like we bought over like 100 devices and we deployed them with the expectation that we're going to make some passive income was COVID, but not crazy like he got, right? Well, the problem was like when the project is hot, it's already too late. When you see the chart going up like 50, 100%,
you missed the boat.
It's too much, right? So I would say like look at projects that you understand what they're trying to do. You can see the vision, and most important, they require not a lot of maintenance. Because like for example, set and forget are the best thing.
Yeah.
Set like put a Qualoo device,
Plug and play, forget about it.
Then you don't need to stress about. Or like you have a Hive map, you always need to like connect drive, connect your phone. It's always a pain, right, to do these things. It's really hard to see what are the projects that are gonna succeed or not. Of course, there's like the whole due diligence that you can do. One thing they're trying to do now on DePIN Hub is like do a DD process on a lot of projects and have like some sort of like DD score that projects above some certain threshold are more likely to do well. But personally, I like projects that are set and forget, and they're not too expensive. Because like if a device is, like we were talking before, is selling a hardware on a massive premium, that reduces ROI massively, right? So
do you think that these DePIN tools that don't have a hardware device, but that are, for example, a plugin that make other people use your data or whatever, is that through DePIN, or does DePIN have to be a physical device that enables a new sort of network?
Yeah, there's a lot of fight over that, right?
I mean, it's decentralized physical infrastructure.
That's why I ask.
Yeah, I mean, it's like how many projects say AI when they just use a...
Right,
you know,
like share this NVIDIA chip together.
Yeah.
I don't know, like you have a computer.
It's a hot topic because, I mean, technically a mobile is a device that you're using for running things on it, right? If you're actually using that device as a tool, and you're actually extracting things from the sensors on that device, it's like a DePIN. Like otherwise, like Facebook's a DePIN. You know, it's and it's the same. Like bring your own device. Anything can be turned into. You know, I mean, your fridge, your TV, everything's going to be connected, right? And that's the world we're going. I mean, it's going to be really scary when AI in DePIN get connected and start a war with us, right?
Yeah, I think it's a fight that a lot of people have. I think the most important thing is actually add value.
Yeah.
If you're actually adding value to something, but how hard it is for you to deploy something is how much more money you should be making as well, right? Because like
you're investing your time and your money.
If
right?
you're just installing a Chrome plugin, you can expect to make Lambos.
Yeah.
It's
you see everyone freaking out over the grass rewards points. You know, I spent.
Is that DePIN though? Is it not?
Well, I mean, they're not really. I mean, they're not using DePIN in the sense of we're using a device to gather something. They're just using it like a relay node, right? And it's like as a you know to pull things.
Yeah, but what you're saying that what if Grass release a little device? This is the exact same thing as the Chrome browser.
Good point. Yeah.
If it's a dedicated device,
then it's a DePIN. Then we accept. No, I think it's about like how they approach the problem and how if they actually adding value. Something. Yeah.
How do DePIN and AI go hand in hand? That's the two hot topics right now.
Yeah.
And I think you're using some AI in the analysis part of Qualoo as well, right?
Yes, I mean, if you're thinking of it, you've just got a massive compute problem, right? And who's going to pay for it? And most people don't have the money of Elon Musk to drop billions on dedicated centers, so you've got to distribute that and share it, so you can see the value of using GPUs to put to work with AI. But I mean, there's a lot of different, depends what the DePINs are using. Like, so in our case, where we need to analyze data, So we're not just a DePIN gathering data. We've got to then interpret that, run our algorithms that basically turn everything I did on consultancy projects into an algorithm to automate it. So then you need AI, you need compute, you need all this insight, stuff like that. So we've got different aspects of that going on. So we're going to touch on all of those.
I'll take another angle at this answer. So from the DePIN side, because I have to look at all these projects, I think there's so much value when you start taking data from one DePIN and comparing and contrasting that with another DePIN. And I think with AI and you're bringing all these different data points together from different projects, I think there's potential for like massively incredible insights from these different kinds of data.
I mean, when you look at AI, when it's trained on everything we put on the internet. I mean, with DePIN, we're building intelligent systems that are connected to the real world, and we can learn from all of those different sensors and things to create new models, predicting the real world and things like that. So it's all going to merge into that, right? So you got like real world being able to make sense of what's actually happening in reality rather than kind of LLMs that's just making sense of your words, right? So it's going to be pretty exciting.
I think I like to think DePIN more than hardware is about tapping into idle resources. Because if you buy something, if you buy your, I don't know, Ryanair, you buy a plane. Every second that your plane is parked, you're losing money, right? So the same thing, you buy like a very expensive graphic cards. Every time you're not using that graphic card to generate some money, you're losing money or some opportunity. So being able to use idle resources, which can be...
Put your investment to work.
Yeah, I mean, it could be a Chrome plugin, because you pay for that computer regardless, or a graphic card for AI. But I think on the AI side, which people are starting to talk more and more, is not only about processing AI, it's about energy. So the problem with AI, I feel that in the near future is not going to be necessarily the GPU processing, hopefully thanks to DePIN, but it's going to be on the energy side of things, right? Because it's still... What is it, like every ChatGPT query that you do burns a shit ton of carbon? So now who's bad, Bitcoin or ChatGPT?
Yeah, so when you ask ChatGPT what to have for breakfast...
Does this prompt cost?
Yeah.
I'll tell you from being in the house with the Hotspotty team here, they're so nice and gracious to be able to let me stay in their villa here. I didn't even plan to be coming here. We were just in Singapore and they're like, yo, pull up. I was like, okay, I guess you're right. And it's been amazing. But these guys use ChatGPT a lot, and it's actually inspired me to use ChatGPT for competitive advantage.
Every day.
Comparison to different projects,
yeah.
It's actually huge. So
I mean,
our carbon footprint's pretty massive, I guess, in this house.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, we do use ChatGPT a lot because we're a very small team in Hotspotty, and we're fighting the Goliath. So what we do is we leverage technology. I mean, we have a lot of expertise in the team as well, but you gotta leverage the tools that you have around you. So make sure to use it.
I honestly thought I used it a lot until I came here, and I was like, well, okay, I got some more optimizing to do.
Yeah, man, there's so many use cases. Yeah, that's for sure. But it's a bad thing.
The previous point you made about DePIN and like an overlap over the different things that exist in crypto. I think in the world as well, you have like DePIN is a cover over different industries that have been very siloed, and where you can then connect all the dots together and bring value in that way. And that's what you're doing, right? Like the whole telecom, it's so siloed, they're all doing their own thing, they're competing, trying to compete. There's not one thing that's really overlapping all of it. Yeah. And I think that's also one of the values that DePINs bring to the world.
Gives you access.
Exactly.
And when you look without the logistics headache, yes. With any DePIN, it would cost millions of dollars to go and put environmental sensors out or noise sensors or anything, right? So you can tap into these resources and the people, and as long as you have a good narrative and people who want to earn tokens, they can probably do it for you. And yeah, right for us, there's no way we could go around and ask permission to audit every single telco in the world and then show the world how good you are. No one would go for that, but with DePIN we can do that, and that's what's needed to do what we want to do.
We're just getting started as well.
Yeah, it's still...
Yeah, honestly, I think, when was it? December 23 or January 24 when DePIN on YouTube started getting thrown, like DePIN, what is DePIN? Decentralized physical infrastructure. Like, it's not that long ago, it's 10 months ago, right? And now suddenly everybody comes home from Singapore token 2049 and you hear in podcasts like, what are you most bullish about ever since Singapore? And everybody's like, DePIN on number one, DePIN. Maybe AI, DePIN. So it's like
so
in 10 months, this part of the industry went from nobody knew about it to everybody knows about it, but they don't really know where to allocate, right?
It was a pretty like complicated solution. Like, let me think. Back in 2020, Helium used to call themselves DY, Decentralized Wireless. And then there was like a lot of names that came after that. There was Proof of Physical Work,
EdgeFi.
EdgeFi was IoTeX.
Machine
IoTeX
Fi,
one of the first. like,
economy of things.
We've been in there since like before DePIN was invented.
Yeah, way before.
And we've been trying to name it. I remember being back in San Francisco, I believe it was 2022, and we were like spitballing names, what should we call the sector? How do we like make the sector a thing? We're like Machine Fi.
Did anyone have DePIN?
No, but what happened was Masari put out a tweet to the community that said, what should the name of the sector be moving forward? And a vote was done.
And that was it.
And that was it.
Consensus.
Then we were like, okay, we don't really care. Like,
Yeah, exactly,
We don't care
yeah.
what the name is. We just need something to get
Exactly,
behind.
yeah.
And it just goes to show, like, okay, everyone's working the same direction. When I'm up on stage, I had this little bit that I used to do for my first 30 seconds of my speeches. So I talk about Planet of the Apes. So you guys know the scene, Apes Together Strong. Do you know what I'm talking about? Apes Together Strong?
Yeah.
Where it goes, Apes Together Strong. So I used to go up on stage, I used to give are you guys interested in Planet of the Apes? Do you like Planet of the Apes? And then I went, DePIN's Together Strong. And I got the crowd to chant, DePIN's Together Strong, because it's true. Like, when everyone's together in the space and working towards a goal, like, at the sky's the limit.
No, I 100% agree with that. Like, there are so many different names, like TPIN, that's the Token Incentivized Physical Infrastructure Networks, and the other ones, MachineFi, EdgeFi, you name it. But it doesn't matter. Like, also, there's another thing that people do, like, is it real DePIN? It doesn't matter, man. Like, everybody's trying to build something that kind of change the world, give people around the world some opportunities from extra passive income.
Yeah.
So let's just work together. There's a lot of work to be done. Education, go to DePIN Scan, go to DePIN Hub, leverage everything that contents that are online. There's so many more projects coming. There's a lot of use case that we don't even think about it. Like Mawari is one that's just finalized their seed round like a few days ago. They're doing augmented reality, and then Meta, I think like 2 days ago, released the new Meta glasses. Like, okay, Mawari can run the backend for the entire like Meta glasses, for example, and they run on DePIN.
There's one more that we both are actively working with as well. It's called Usend. They're doing the NAS. They're kind of distributing a NAS, right? Like, where everybody has their own storage at home, but if your storage is not full, other people can use it. And that's another DePIN project with actual use case. Like, I have a NAS at home, I cannot share, like, it's 80% empty. I cannot share that. Create a nice experience, make people use it. And if these things come all together into one big device, with even cooler, like if one device can do 10 different networks or tokens, I think that's the value that I find coolest here by discussing all of this. It's like there could be one company that actually builds a big box with all of it included.
Yeah, the multi-mining device for DePIN makes a lot of sense. You can like Usend device, you can put like a Qualoo device, you can put like a Tor device as well for privacy. There's so many things that can coexist in the same hardware. Then instead of having like 10 pieces of hardware using 10%, you just have one using 80.
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, it's never been as easy as it is now. We're like the IoTeX, the modular infra. People even can plug in those DePIN modules, even if they're on Solana or Polygon, or and that's one of the things why we chose IoTeX as well. Just that acceleration, right? You don't have to reinvent the wheel. Focus on the value you're bringing, and I think that's what people want. Bring the value. Is it something that doesn't exist already? Don't just put a payment gateway on a Wi-Fi. I mean, do better, right? I mean, but think of something different.
And I think don't reinvent the wheel as well.
Yeah.
We're good at that.
I see, I mean, engineers are very good at, making things because they like to build. But like, there's so many things that are already done. Don't try to create your own layer one.
Yeah.
And style yourself, like...
Waste all those VC funds.
Into IoTeX, Peak, Solana... Like, each blockchain has its own advantage, leverage all of them, right?
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, and then if you're going to, you got to have the interoperability in place. So,
Exactly.
for example, IoTeX, we just launched our bridge to Solana during the Breakpoint event, and I think that's huge. And we also had an announcement with Polygon Ag Layer. So again, connecting to the rest of the.
Can you just explain what's IoTeX?
IoTeX is a layer 1 blockchain, one of the biggest blockchains in the world, but specifically focused on the DePIN sector. So helping projects like Qualoo grow. If you join IoTeX, it's effectively a community out of the box because we have so many DePIN enthusiasts that are kind of with our chain, and excited about all the projects that are dropping on our chain. And we have with IoTeX 2.0 a bunch of different types of modular infrastructure that we're able to offer, and projects like Qualoo are taking advantage of those in order to build out their tech stack.
Awesome. So you're the ideal person to build this big box.
There you go. Let's talk. You can be CEO.
IoTeX is moving to DePIN. Yeah,
Keith, do you have any final thoughts?
Well, I mean, for us, just get ready to help us all make the internet better for everyone. I mean, any investors, hit me up. We're just getting ready for our nodes launch, apps, sign up for the waitlist at qualoo.io, and it's coming. And we'll be working close with IoTeX and, Hotspotty and Rick and everyone is coming up because it's a big space. It's going to be, and we got to help each other up on the way up. So,
how many nodes are you looking to sell in the first batch?
We're going to try to roll it out in waves. We're going to try and create a bit of scarcity in each country. We're going to do some early node sales, probably Q1 next year. We're just kind of getting things ready for that, and hopefully we can move fast once we close the seed round down. So we're just following up with VCs now and getting that locked off, and if we can do that next month, we'll be on the road.
And then by what time are you hoping to get these 200,000 distributed?
Well, yeah, I mean, that's kind of an optimal, but it probably happen over a year or so. A year or two. But there's other things that we're speaking with some other potential partners that are already deep in networks. That have got hundreds of thousands of Wi-Fi points out there that we could push the Qualoo node. So then we're already over that point. But so the 200,000 number, that's just what we need for the kind of the telco ISP use case to make sure we rein them all in. There's all kinds of other use cases for like businesses and the consumer side that actually grow from that. So like if we want to have nodes in hotels and coffee shops, and that feeds all the live map data as well. So if you can look at, okay, I want to go gaming now, this coffee shop has got awesome latency now, you can go and do it and make that as easy as possible in the app. So
because in our conversation we mainly focus on telcos, right? But
yeah,
like now on all these other use cases, that makes it even more interesting, right?
Yeah, and then the evolution of that is to make the nodes programmable, right? So you're talking about a second layer to the internet, like a side chain to the internet to make sure the internet works well for everyone. And those nodes are actually have a stake in the ground of like, we're in this location on this provider. And then there's all kinds of stuff, like the different providers might be throttling your service different. They might be routing you to a different payment gateway. You might have a different price. You might have, so then you look at some of the other projects doing with like the AI scraping and the geo data analysis. You can then run things on our network as well, and other projects will be able to come and use our network. Or the other thing is to use the Qualoo data and insights and then build your own models. So you might have a churn prediction model you want to sell to telcos, and you build that on Qualoo data. So we want to make it, so we've got this killer app that we want to do now, and that's save the internet, but then let's open it up to the creative world, and that might be DePIN plug in with other data and combine them and create new data models and monetize that. And we just want to try and get a kickback of that. If you can earn a few % of commissions on things we haven't even thought of yet.
So there's really an infrastructure play there that you guys have.
Yeah. We're building the infrastructure to do what we set out to do, because we're most of the people in the team, we're all from the telco consultancy. We're all pissed working, talking on deaf ears. Like, we're all sick of, like, you have no ideas. Like me going with my data report and saying, look at how bad this internet is for all these customers, and the CTO goes, yeah, but have the complaints yet? That's the attitude, right? So like, we're blowing up big style.
I have a great idea as a side project for you guys. It's called DDoS as a service.
I mean, there's a big security aspect at work as well. We do have a dedicated team for security because we don't want to be the world's biggest botnet.
Exactly. No,
But if, there's always a pivot option, right?
worst case scenario, just go to the black market.
Yeah, or the CIA will drop on our door and say we want to rent Qualoo network for a couple of hours a night.
I maybe have one last question to end the conversation. We can keep going, but I don't know how long we've been going. But maybe what's your key takeaway? Since we all come from Singapore, we've all been there, we've all lived the experience. For me, it was exceptional. I couldn't imagine what happened there. What are your key takeaways and what are you most bullish about for what's coming? Like, what did you learn there that you didn't know before arriving in Singapore?
Yeah,
Maybe I'll start with Aaron.
Yeah, for me, I think it's easy to get trapped in the DePIN bubble because it's becoming like a real thing. Where before, when I went to these events, it'd be like, okay, let's bring on the next DePIN project, let's find the next Qualoo and all that. But now we already have like these projects in front of us, and they know who we are, we know who they are. So for me now, it's like, let me continue to refine the pitch of DePIN, continue to talk about some of the amazing use cases that are out there, like a Qualoo, and go to these other events outside of the DePIN events, and go spread the DePIN word. And it's amazing how receptive they are to certain use cases and not to other use cases. So just trying to gauge where their eyes light up. And I think where those eyes light up is the ones that I will continue to push, and like those are the projects that are going to do really well, like a Qualoo. Yeah, nice. So I'm really excited about that.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I think this last whole year, right? It's been so nice to see how DePIN is a cool narrative, because I remember during the last bear market, beginning of 2022, no, it was end of 2022, how we didn't even know if this narrative was going to succeed or survive. But then we kind of like, okay, we're a small team, we're not super well funded, but we're going to keep on pushing and hustling. And in a way, it's kind of paying off to see the excitement around DePIN. But I agree with Aaron here. It's like, we live in a DePIN bubble that's inside of crypto bubble. And that's quite small. Crypto, everybody talks about crypto. Crypto is massive, but it's so tiny. Like last year, thanks to Solana, so Samsung Next, one of our investors, we got a booth in Mobile World Congress in Barcelona. And I was going to talk about Hotspot, what we're building, etc. It was massive. There's like, hundreds of people. And I asked, who here knows Helium? And that was 2023. Like 3 people put their hands up. And I was like, hot damn.
You got a way to go.
We have a lot of work to do. It was good in a way. Like, it was kind of like an eye-opening.
Exactly.
Oh.
So we were in a DePIN bubble. We go to the DePIN events. That's why like a month ago or 2 months ago, we built something called DePIN Revolution. It was an online event that we really focused on people outside of the DePIN. And that's why we also did it like an online event. Because you go to conferences, people who have money to go to the conference are the projects, right? It's not the average Joe that's going to pay.
It's not your consumer who's sitting in the audience.
It's not the people who are going to be deploying the devices, right? So really figuring out that even though it's very, like it's so, I'm very proud to be in this ecosystem. Like getting to spend so much time with the IoTeX team, learning about them, working together, trying to do better, but also knowing that we have a shit ton of work to do. And that's something that makes me very excited to wake up every morning, like LFG,
You're on the right track.
16-hour days every day since we did.
I never heard of DePIN Hub before, like I think 4 weeks ago, when I was researching a project that's potentially launching with us, and I was doing my research, ended up on DePIN Hub, and I think not even 10 days after that, I was sharing a flight with Daniel. So it's funny. Like, it's like, I'm Daniel from DePIN Hub. I'm like, DePIN Hub, I visited that website 2 weeks ago. And I never knew of it before. So, like, you are getting the attention of the people that are trying to get into the space or to learn. So I think you're definitely in the right track.
We worked very hard to get there. We still have a long way to go, but 16 hours a day is hopefully is going to turn into something.
You got our support.
Yeah, I mean, I think for me there was so much interest. People were on the lookout for the next thing, the next project, right? And there's a lot of people that weren't totally crypto people that still haven't looked around. And, a lot of people keen to build, get into the space, and but it was I heard speaking to some investors over the week, there was a lot of disappointment. Nothing really stood out until the Qualoo, and that was but yeah, I think there's a lot of excitement. It's still building, and I mean, like you said, it's so small when you think of the world. And that's why I think I have high hopes for Qualoo, because we're not just an important project in Web3. We're an important project for the world, right? We're just tapping into Web3 to really solve this global problem, and the more things that Web3 can stand up and say, look, we did this, the rest of the world couldn't, and we use crypto to save the world's internet. That makes the rest of the industry stronger, and especially like, we want to show up, we want to do our best, we want to elevate IoTeX and the whole DePIN space and crypto, and we're not just bullshit projects, right? And that's, some people, even that people have now joined my team who were like, well, why do you need a token? Why, what's crypto? Because they come from Europe or whatever, and they're a bit skeptical about that. And once they're really in and they learn it and go, man, this is, now I understand. Like that, now I know why we need to do this, to give us this, give this network to do this. And that's what I think is going to be pretty exciting.
Okay, I'll give mine too. I was not in the DePIN bubble for the past 12 months. I've been speaking with projects from every part of the industry: gaming, AI, DePIN, Bitcoin ecosystem, layer ones, layer twos, whatever, DeFi, right? Yeah, exactly. And like, I personally have been most excited about DePIN in the past months. When I was talking to these projects, the DePIN project stood out for me because they're actually building something, not a copy paste or not just something that's already existing but on another chain, stuff like that. And that feeling got kind of confirmed in Singapore, especially when I joined the IoTeX event, when I saw like what's being built, what's going on there. Everybody had high hopes on crypto AI, but I feel like with the big NVIDIA run that we had the past months, and like AI has been exploding, and it's a lot of speculation still. There's a few use cases for AI that are in place and that could become big, but it's like, which one is going to become big? And it's still a bit of a gamble. And also like crazy valuations that are not supported by actually hardware supporting it. So that's like the AI problem in my opinion. Yeah. But then when coming back from Singapore and I saw what DePIN is actually building, I saw how they are putting themselves out there as a part of the industry, as well as hearing other people coming back from Singapore and saying, I'm bullish on DePIN. DePIN is the next thing. DePIN was very represented. So from somebody who came from outside of the DePIN bubble, I can honestly tell you guys that the DePIN really caught eyes in Singapore, and not only for the DePIN people, like VCs, analysis companies, launchpads, everything. Everything just, DePIN is super cool, DePIN is nice, DePIN is easy to explain, DePIN has a use case. So yeah, that's my takeaway. I think like DePIN together with AI is what people are getting bullish about for the next few months to years.
Yeah, last thing I'd like to say is like we're still waiting of that one project that really makes it in the DePIN ecosystem, because a lot of people that I talk to, investors, researchers, etc., they still think DePIN has a long way to go. I would say this is like, if you're starting a cycle, it could be like the second cycle, but it still takes 2 more.
It's like RWA has been coming back for the past bear markets. Like every bear market, people start talking about RWA because it makes most sense to tokenize the things that are not tokenized yet. But it's not possible because of regulations. And with DePIN it's kind of the same, probably. The idea has been growing over the past cycles, and now technology makes it possible to actually do it. And this is maybe the first cycle that the technology makes it possible. Yeah. Next cycle, it's time for everybody having this big device that IoTeX is going to build in their home, where they're all earning different tokens, right?
Exactly. Yeah, I mean, even in RWA, regulations takes a long time to get there. But I think it's going to get there. That's why, like, if you're trying to live in crypto on, like, libertarian mindset, it's going to get harder and harder, which, in a way, it's, like, personally, I would rather say no, but I think it's a good thing because that's how we're going to get mass adoption. Right?
I couldn't agree more. Mass adoption, that's what we're going for, right?
Yeah. Awesome.
Guys, thank you very much. Keith, thanks for joining us in Koh Samui.
Yeah. Thanks,
guys.
Yeah, awesome.
Yeah, thank you, and everybody make sure to check DePIN Hub, DePIN Scan, Qualoo, and LP Roundtable.
Let's go.